Lisa worked at a small design studio in the city. Nothing fancy, just a regular job that paid the bills and kept her busy. She lived in a quiet apartment building where most people kept to themselves. The kind of place where you'd nod at your neighbors in the hallway but never really get to know them. That Friday evening felt like any other. Lisa came home tired from a long week of deadlines and client meetings. Her feet hurt from wearing heels all day, and all she wanted was to curl up on her couch with some leftover pizza and watch something mindless on television. She did exactly that for a couple of hours, barely paying attention to whatever show was playing on the screen. Around 10 in the evening, she decided to call it a night. She brushed her teeth, washed her face, and changed into her comfortable pajamas, the ones with little stars on them that she'd bought on sale last year. Before getting into bed, she did what she always did. She checked that the front door was locked, turned off all the lights except her bedside lamp, and opened her bedroom window just a crack. She loved the fresh air at night, even in the cooler months. It helped her sleep better. Lisa set her phone alarm for 7 in the morning. She had plans to go grocery shopping early before the stores got crowded. Maybe grab some coffee at that new cafe down the street that everyone was talking about. Simple weekend plans, nothing exciting. She scrolled through her phone for a few minutes, looking at pictures of food and random videos, then finally put it on the nightstand and turned off the lamp. The apartment was quiet except for the usual sounds. The hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the occasional car passing by outside, and somewhere in the building, someone's television playing faintly. Normal night sounds that Lisa had gotten used to over the 2 years she'd lived there. She pulled her blanket up to her chin and closed her eyes. Sleep came easily that night. She was that kind of tired, where you don't toss and turn, you just drift off within minutes. Her breathing slowed down, and she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. The kind of sleep where you don't dream much, just rest completely. During the past week, Lisa had noticed something different in the building. Her next-door neighbor, an older man named Tom, who she'd occasionally see collecting his mail, had gotten a new pet. She'd heard it a few times through the walls. A bird. A loud one. It would squawk and make all sorts of noises at odd times during the day. She'd even heard it talking once when she was coming up the stairs, though she couldn't make out what it was saying. Lisa had thought about mentioning it to Tom if it became a problem, but honestly, it wasn't that bad. The walls were pretty thick, and she was at work most of the day anyway. Besides, Tom seemed like a nice enough person. He always held the door open if he saw you coming, and smiled politely. He looked lonely sometimes, carrying his single bag of groceries or sitting on the building's front steps alone. Maybe the bird was good company for him. That night, as Lisa slept, she had no idea that her morning would be anything but ordinary. She didn't know that her simple routine was about to be interrupted in the strangest possible way. Sometimes life throws you surprises when you least expect them. Sometimes those surprises come in forms you could never imagine. And sometimes, they arrive at 6:15 in the morning when you're still sound asleep, dreaming about absolutely nothing. The city outside was still dark. Streetlights glowed orange on the empty roads. A few early morning joggers were already out, and the bakery down the block was starting to prepare fresh bread. But in Lisa's apartment, everything was still and calm. Her chest rose and fell with steady breaths. Her phone sat silently on the nightstand, waiting for the alarm that wouldn't go off for another 45 minutes. The window remained slightly open, letting in the cool morning air. Everything was exactly as it should be. In that quiet moment before dawn when the world hasn't quite woken up yet, Lisa felt something land on her chest. Not gently, either. It was sudden and heavy, like someone had dropped a book on her. Her eyes flew open, her heart already racing from the shock. For a second, she couldn't process what she was seeing. Her brain was still foggy from sleep, trying to make sense of the situation. There was a bird sitting on her chest. A big bird. Gray feathers, bright eyes, and a curved beak that looked pretty serious up close. It tilted its head and stared right at her face. Not just looked at her, but stared, like it was studying her. Then it opened its beak and spoke in the clearest voice she'd ever heard from an animal. "Good morning, Margaret. Time for breakfast." Lisa froze. Complete, total freeze. Her mind went blank. She wasn't Margaret. She definitely wasn't Margaret, and there was definitely a talking bird standing on her chest at 6 in the morning. Was she still dreaming? She blinked hard a few times. Nope. The bird was still there. Still staring. Still very real. She managed to say, her voice coming out as a squeak. I'm not Margaret. The bird didn't seem to care. It walked up her chest toward her face, its claws gripping her pajama top. Lisa stayed perfectly still, afraid that moving might make things worse. What do you even do in this situation? There's no manual for waking up with a strange bird on your chest. Margaret, don't forget your medicine. The bird announced cheerfully. Okay. So this was definitely Tom's bird. The one she'd been hearing through the walls. Somehow it had gotten out of his apartment and into hers. Through the window. Probably. That small crack she always left open. She made a mental note to never do that again if she survived this bizarre morning. Lisa tried to sit up slowly, but the bird had other ideas. It hopped off her chest and flew across the room, landing on top of her dresser. It immediately started poking at things with its beak. Her jewelry box, her hairbrush, a framed photo of her family. The bird knocked the photo frame slightly to the side and made a satisfied clicking sound. Hey, be careful with that, Lisa said, finally finding her voice. She threw off her blanket and stood up, approaching the bird carefully. It watched her with those intelligent eyes, head tilting back and forth. She reached out slowly, thinking maybe she could just grab it gently and put it in her bathroom until she figured out what to do. But the moment her hand got close, the bird spread its wings and took off again. It flew straight into her living room, and Lisa heard the unmistakable sound of something crashing. No. No, no, she muttered, running after it. Her small potted plant lay on its side on the floor, dirt spilling onto her rug. The bird was now perched on her curtain rod, looking completely pleased with itself. This is not happening. This cannot be happening. Her phone started ringing in the bedroom. The bird immediately mimicked the ringtone perfectly, adding its own musical twist to it. Then it switched to mimicking her voice, something she must have said yesterday through the wall. Just 5 more minutes. Please. Despite the chaos, Lisa almost laughed. Almost. The bird was talented, she'd give it that. But it was also destroying her apartment. And she needed to do something fast. She grabbed a kitchen towel and tried the gentle grabbing approach again. The bird was having none of it. It flew to the bookshelf, then to the back of her couch, then to the kitchen counter, always staying just out of reach. Come on, buddy, Lisa said, trying to sound calm and friendly. Let's be cool about this. You go back home. I go back to sleep. Everybody wins. The bird landed on her kitchen table and started walking around like it owned the place. Then it said something that made Lisa stop in her tracks. Love you too, sweetheart. Another beautiful day. The voice was different this time. Softer, warmer. It sounded like something someone would say to a person they cared about deeply. Lisa felt something tug at her heart. This bird wasn't just mimicking random sounds. It was repeating things it had heard from someone important. Someone named Margaret. Lisa stood in her kitchen, watching the bird carefully. It had finally stopped flying around like crazy and seemed to be calming down. The bird preened its feathers, occasionally glancing at her as if to make sure she wasn't going to try grabbing it again. Smart bird. She pulled out her phone and searched for Tom's number. She'd gotten it months ago when the building manager sent around a contact list for emergencies. This definitely qualified as an emergency, even if it was a weird one. But when she called, it went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. Tom's phone was either off or dead. Great. Lisa decided to try a different approach. She went to her kitchen and opened the cabinet where she kept snacks. Crackers, maybe? Do birds eat crackers? She honestly had no idea. She put a few on a plate and set it on the table near the bird. It looked at the crackers, then at her, then back at the crackers. Then it picked one up with its foot, held it up like a person would hold a slice of pizza, and took a bite. Okay, That's actually pretty cool, Lisa admitted out loud. She sat down at the table, keeping a respectful distance. The bird seemed more relaxed now. It finished the cracker and walked a bit closer to her. Not close enough to touch, but closer than before. They sat there in this strange silence for a moment, woman and bird, neither quite sure what to do next. So, Lisa said, feeling slightly ridiculous for talking to a bird. You got a name? Winston, the bird replied immediately, making her jump a little. Good boy, Winston. Winston. All right, Winston. I'm Lisa. And you really scared me this morning, you know that? Winston tilted his head and made a soft clicking sound. Then he started talking again. But this time it was different. The phrases came out one after another, like a recording playing back. Don't forget your medicine, Margaret. The doctor said twice a day. Love you too, sweetheart. Another beautiful day. The letters are in the blue box. Tell them I'm sorry. The letters are in the blue box. Tell them I'm sorry. He repeated that last part 3 times, and each time, Lisa felt more confused. Letters? Blue box? Sorry, for what? This Margaret person had clearly talked to Winston a lot. These weren't just random words. They were pieces of conversations, pieces of someone's life. Lisa grabbed her phone again and did something she normally wouldn't do. She searched for Tom's full name and the word obituary, along with Bird and Margaret. Maybe she could find some information online. After a few tries, she found something. An obituary from 2 months ago. Margaret Chen, age 72, beloved friend and retired teacher, survived by her daughter, Julie, and her grandchildren. Known for her kindness and her love of birds, especially her African gray parrot, Winston. So Winston had been Margaret's bird. And now he was with Tom. Lisa wondered how that happened. Were they friends? Family? The obituary didn't mention Tom at all. She kept searching and found more information. Margaret's daughter had posted something on a community page about rehoming Winston because she couldn't keep him in her apartment. Too small. No pets allowed. Someone named Tom had responded, offering to take him. He'd mentioned that Margaret was his late wife's best friend and that he'd be honored to care for Winston. That explained a lot. Tom had taken Winston in out of respect and maybe loneliness. But Winston was clearly still attached to his old life. To Margaret. Birds like this could live for decades. They formed deep bonds with their owners. Losing Margaret must have been confusing and sad for him. I'm sorry, buddy, Lisa said softly. I bet you miss her a lot. Winston looked at her with those bright eyes and said quietly, Another beautiful day. Just then, Lisa heard frantic knocking at her door. She jumped up and looked through the peephole. It was Tom, looking worried and out of breath. She quickly opened the door. Lisa, I'm so sorry. He started immediately. My bird. Winston. He got out. My caregiver came by this morning and left the door open for just a second. Have you seen him? Gray bird? Talks a lot? Lisa stepped aside and pointed to her kitchen table where Winston was still sitting, now working on another cracker. Tom's face flooded with relief. Oh, thank goodness, he breathed out. I've been looking everywhere. Knocked on every door on this floor. Tom walked into Lisa's apartment slowly, not wanting to startle Winston. The bird looked up and immediately flew to Tom's shoulder. Settling there like it was the most natural thing in the world, Tom reached up and gently stroked Winston's head, and the bird made happy little chirping sounds. I'm really sorry about this, Tom said again, looking around at the mess. The dirt on the floor, the knocked-over picture frame, the general chaos of the morning. I'll help you clean up. And if anything's broken, I'll replace it. Winston's a good bird, but he gets anxious sometimes. Especially in new places. 7. Ever. It's okay, Lisa said, though she was still processing everything. Actually, can we talk for a minute? Winston said some interesting things. They sat down at her kitchen table. Winston still perched on Tom's shoulder, calmer now. Lisa made coffee for both of them. It seemed like the right thing to do after such a strange morning. Plus, she was definitely awake now, and needed the caffeine. Tom explained the whole story. He'd known Margaret for years through his late wife. They'd been best friends since childhood. After his wife passed away 3 years ago, Margaret had been a huge support. They'd have coffee together, share stories, keep each other company. When Margaret got sick last year, Tom visited her regularly at the hospital. She'd worried constantly about Winston, about what would happen to him. She asked me specifically if I'd take him, Tom said, his voice getting a bit shaky. She knew her daughter couldn't. I said yes immediately. Margaret loved this bird more than anything. She'd had him for 18 years. Can you imagine? Lisa could imagine. 18 years was a long time. Longer than some marriages. Longer than she'd lived in any one place. Winston wasn't just a pet to Margaret. He was family. He keeps saying something, Lisa mentioned carefully, about letters in a blue box. That someone should be told sorry. He repeated it several times. Tom's eyebrows went up. Letters? Blue box? He thought for a moment. Margaret's daughter, Julie, did mention something when I picked up Winston. She said her mom had been talking about letters in her last few weeks, important letters that needed to be found. But they couldn't find them anywhere in the apartment. They searched everywhere before the estate sale. What kind of letters? Lisa asked. Julie thought they might be letters to family members. Margaret had some falling out years ago with her brother and sister. Something about their parents' will, I think. She always regretted it. Julie said her mom talked about making things right but never gave details. Winston suddenly spoke up. The letters are in the blue box. Tell them I'm sorry. Both Tom and Lisa looked at the bird. It was eerie how he said it. With such clarity and purpose. Like he knew it was important. Like he was trying to help. You know, Tom said slowly. Margaret did have a lot of storage boxes. Julie might not have checked all of them thoroughly. They were rushing to clear out the apartment. Maybe Winston actually knows something. Lisa grabbed her phone. Do you have Julie's number? Maybe we should call her. Tom did have it. He called right there from Lisa's kitchen table, putting it on speaker. Julie answered on the third ring, sounding tired. It was still pretty early in the morning. Tom apologized for calling so early and explained the situation. Winston, the escape, and most importantly, what the bird kept saying about letters in a blue box. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then Julie said, A blue box? Wait. Mom had a blue storage container. But it was just full of old kitchen stuff when I looked. Dish towels and recipe cards. I didn't think to look deeper. We donated it to a thrift store 2 weeks ago. Lisa's heart sank. Which thrift store? The Good Shepherd on Franklin Street. Oh no. You don't think the letters were actually in there, do you? Only one way to find out, Lisa said, looking at Tom. It opens at 9 on Saturdays. I'll go, Tom said immediately. Julie, I'll call you back if we find anything. Wait, Lisa heard herself say. I'll come with you. I want to help. She surprised herself with the offer. A few hours ago, she just wanted a quiet morning. Now she was invested in solving a mystery left behind by a woman she'd never met. Tom smiled at her gratefully. Thank you. Really. Let me take Winston home first and make sure he's secure. Then we can go together. They made a plan to meet in the building lobby at 8:30. That gave Lisa time to shower, get dressed, and make herself presentable. As Tom headed for the door with Winston on his shoulder, the bird turned back to look at Lisa. Another beautiful day, Winston said. And somehow, despite the chaos, Lisa felt like maybe it really was. Lisa and Tom stood outside the Good Shepherd thrift store at exactly 9 in the morning when the volunteer unlocked the front door. The older woman looked surprised to see people waiting so eagerly, but smiled and welcomed them in. The store smelled like old books and furniture polish, that distinct thrift store smell that was somehow comforting. We're looking for a blue storage container, Tom explained to the volunteer. It was donated about 2 weeks ago. It might have had kitchen items in it. The woman thought for a moment. Blue container? Large one? I think I remember that. Let me check in the back. We haven't put everything out on the floor yet. She disappeared through a doorway marked "Staff Only," and Lisa and Tom waited. Lisa felt nervous, though she wasn't sure why. These weren't her family letters. This wasn't her mystery to solve. But somehow, she felt connected to it now. Maybe because of how the morning had started, or maybe because Winston's repeated words had touched something in her. The idea that someone's last wishes could be left unfulfilled seemed unbearably sad. The volunteer returned carrying a blue plastic storage container. "This one?" That's it," Tom said, recognizing it immediately from photos Julie had sent. They bought it back for $15. The volunteer seemed confused about why anyone would want old dish towels, but was happy to make the sale. They carried the container back to Tom's apartment, and Tom called Julie to join them on video chat so she could see what they found. Tom set the container on his dining table and opened the lid. On top were exactly what Julie had described. Dish towels, some recipe cards with handwritten notes, a few pot holders. Normal kitchen stuff, but Tom started removing items carefully, and about halfway down, there was a layer of bubble wrap. Under that, a wooden box. A small, beautiful wooden box, with carved flowers on the lid. "That was my grandmother's," Julie said through the phone, her voice catching. "Mom kept it on her dresser. I thought we'd donated it by mistake, but I couldn't find it anywhere." Tom opened the wooden box carefully. Inside were letters. At least a dozen of them, all in envelopes, all sealed. Each one had a name written on it in neat handwriting. Robert, Catherine, Julie. There was even one addressed to Tom. "She wrote to all of us," Julie whispered. Mom wrote to everyone she felt she'd wronged or needed to make peace with. Tom picked up the envelope with his name on it. His hands shook slightly. "Should I?" "Yes," Julie said. "Please. We all should read them." That's what she wanted. Over the next hour, sitting in Tom's living room with Winston perched quietly nearby, they read Margaret's words. Tom read his letter aloud through tears. Margaret thanked him for being there for her, for taking care of Winston, for the friendship that had meant so much after his wife passed away. She apologized for not being able to say a proper goodbye. Julie read portions of her letter too. Margaret apologized for being stubborn about asking for help when she got sick. She expressed how proud she was of her daughter and grandchildren. She shared memories and love and hopes for their future. The letters to Margaret's estranged siblings were the most important ones. In them, Margaret took responsibility for her part in their falling out. She acknowledged that money and inheritance had damaged relationships that should have been about love and family. She asked for forgiveness and expressed regret for years of silence and pride that kept them apart. "I need to contact Uncle Robert and Aunt Catherine," Julie said. "They should see these. Maybe it's not too late for some healing." Lisa watched all of this unfold from Tom's couch, feeling like an accidental witness to something profound. A bird's loyalty had led to this. Winston's repeated words, his insistence on delivering Margaret's message, had made this possible. She looked over at the bird, who was grooming his feathers peacefully. "Thank you, Winston," she said softly. "Good boy." Winston looked up at her and tilted his head. Then he said, in that warm voice that must have been Margaret's, "Love you too, sweetheart." 3 weeks later, Lisa got a text from Tom. Julie had contacted her uncle and aunt. They'd read the letters. There had been tears and long phone calls and, finally, after 10 years of not speaking, a plan to meet for dinner. The healing had begun. Slow but real. Tom also told her that Winston had calmed down significantly. Now that the message had been delivered, the bird seemed more settled, less anxious, like he'd completed an important mission and could finally rest. Tom invited Lisa to visit Winston anytime she wanted. Lisa did visit, regularly. Saturday mornings became her time to have coffee with Tom, listen to Winston's stories, and enjoy the unexpected friendship that had formed. She learned that Tom was a retired teacher too, that he played chess, that he made terrible jokes that somehow were still funny. Her life hadn't changed dramatically. She still went to work, still lived in her quiet apartment, still did her grocery shopping on weekends. But something had shifted. The morning that started with chaos and a bird on her chest had taught her something. That being open to unexpected interruptions, to moments that break your routine, could lead to meaningful connections. She stopped leaving her window open at night. But she didn't regret the one time she did. Some mistakes turn into gifts, some disruptions turn into purpose, and sometimes, the most unexpected way to wake up in the morning is exactly what you needed, even if you didn't know it at the time. Life has a funny way of working out like that, Lisa thought. One bird, one morning, one strange adventure, and suddenly everything felt a little more connected, a little more meaningful, a little more beautiful.